From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
You want to go where to buy a new refrigerator? Steve's A to Z Appliance in Cottonwood? In Cottonwood? Just a 10-minute drive. And they'll save us money. New and used, honest, reliable, factory-trained repair service and parts, and they'll save us money. And dispose of this thing? We gotta make the short drive to Steve's A to Z. Thanks, hon.
Steve's A to Z Appliance, front and main streets in Cottonwood. Drive a little, save a lot.
Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Mike Kruger. This is your morning update for your Thursday. Well, the major headline, the big headline is what's happened overnight. Of course, we all know the park fire sparked yesterday afternoon, and there were evacuation orders and warnings. There are a lot of people that are wondering what's happening. People who are evacuation orders and evacuation warnings, the works. This is a serious fire, folks, and it has grown extensively in the overnight hours. So here's how we're going to pretty much handle this fire as we kind of go through this forecast here. I am going to give you the forecast because, of course, that's what many of you might be here for. Then we're going to go into the park fire and the other fires into more detail, kind of the same format that I typically do. And then after that, we'll go into your forecast. So let's get right into it. First and foremost, let's take a look at our weather headlines. So what we have here, our temperatures are finally starting to drop today. It was very hot. We've been under that heat watch, or a heat advisory that is, that's been allowed to expire because temperatures are dropping. Now, the thunderstorms that we've seen in the higher elevations, especially in Modoc County, Lassen County, those have moved out. And I don't anticipate that monsoon moisture to really return anytime soon. The cooling trend will go into the weekend. In fact, the coolest weather will be over the weekend, but next week, unfortunately, there is going to be a bit of a warming trend. So let's take a look at your neighborhood forecast at a glance here real quickly. All of the 6 exclusive neighborhoods right here at Weather NorCal. Still over 100 degrees in the valley, but again, we're not approaching that 110 degree mark. Temperatures are also dropping in the higher elevations, most likely right around or just below 100 degrees for many of us in Trinity County. And in Siskiyou, Modoc County, the Eastern Mountains, you are looking at temperatures in the low to mid 90s for those daytime highs, and of course for the coast in the low 60s. So today, yeah, right around 100 degrees or just slightly above that for the valley. Temperatures in the 80s and 90s for the higher elevations, and we're in the 60s. Now, it's going to be a little smoky, a little hazy in some areas here, and of course, in particular around the park fire, you could be looking at some smoky skies as well. That is all going to have everything to do with the type of activity we do see from the fire. All the fires really throughout the day today. Taking a look at your 7-day outlook for the valley, those temperatures are dropping. We're in the low to mid 90s here through the weekend. And then as I mentioned, those temperatures are gradually increasing. Now, initially through next week, not as hot as we have been at least this week. However, as we get into that next weekend extended, we could be looking at another period where we're approaching 110 degrees again. So that roller coaster ride continues here as we go the next couple of weeks or so. Taking a look at your 7-day outlook for the coast, inland and Weaverville, again, same trend, minus, of course, the coast, where temperatures are going down and then back up again for even the mountain locations here as we take you into the next 7 days or so. All right, so that's kind of looking at the 7-day outlook for Mount Shasta, Alturas, and Susanville. You're, of course, still seeing those temperatures dropping, going back up again as well. All right, let's go ahead and take a look now at the fires. We're getting into the park fire here in just a second. Let's cover all the other fires that we've been covering here, and then we'll go into more detail with the park fire. So the Shelley fire, and one of the things I also need to remind you as you're watching this and as I'm recording this, there will be new data that will probably come in shortly after I record this update. So do note that some of this information, it may not be 100% updated, but at least the information as I'm recording this, you are looking at the latest data that is coming in. So there you can see the Shelley fire, 15,656 acres. It may have grown a little bit here. We may have seen the containment also get better. We've been watching the conditions for the Shelley fire improve. And we've been seeing here that the percentage has been getting better and better. So we're not really going to see it grow much closer, if at all, any closer to those communities in Scott Valley. We take a look at the Hill Fire. And again, this is as of late last night, the information coming in at 10% containment, 6,623 acres. And you can see some of the distances from the communities there. Now, what you'll notice when you look at the fire perimeter here, you'll notice that there's an area that's not as dark of red. That is where the fire has grown most in the last 24 hours or so. It has grown mainly and been most active on the east side of the fire, so it has moved a little bit closer to the Burnt Ranch community, but not necessarily for Willow Creek or Blue Lake for that matter. All right, let's take you down now to what's now being called and has been called the Gold Complex. You've got two main fires coming out of this one. The Smith Fire to the north of northwest of Portola, and to the south of Portola, you've got the Mill Fire. Both of these have also grown over the last 24 hours. The main one and the biggest one of concern, obviously, is the Mill Fire at 2,951 acres. No containment being reported at this point. That's also the case for the Smith Fire as well. Taking a look at some of the distances, a lot of lines to kind of look at here. So let's start with the Mill Fire to the south of Portola. The north end of that fire is approximately 4.8 miles from Portola. And then when we draw a line to the Quincy area, that is about 25.3 miles from Quincy. Again, these are not exact numbers, but it kind of gives you an idea. The Smith Fire, much smaller, but of course still part of the Gold Complex, is about 2.4 miles from the community of Portola. So just a couple of things to take into account there. All right, let's go ahead and take a look now at the Smith Fire. As I mentioned, we have been watching this fire grow overnight. There you can see as of the latest report, it is, we're going to zoom it in here and take a look, at 45,549 acres at 3% containment. We're going to get into the evacuation orders and warnings here in just a second here, but taking a look at the latest data that's coming in, you can see the evacuation warnings have been upgraded to orders. So we've been looking at a lot of these evacuation warnings get upgraded to orders, and of course new orders and evacuation warnings have been issued in the overnight hours as well. I do want to show you some of the cameras here that we can take a look at from a lot of these. This is coming in from the airport, Chico Airport, and you can see off in the distance. I mean, this fire is essentially in the foothills and it is hugging the valley. So you can see over the mountain ridge there, we are seeing the glow of orange out there this morning. All right, so let's take a look. This is an alarming image here that we're going to look at here in just a second here. Let's see if we can get to this one right here. This one, it's 9 hours old. Most likely the camera has gone offline, is off power, because you can see it is just engulfing that tower here. And just, again, a striking image here just to kind of really give you the idea of the power of this fire and how quickly it has spread as well. Very smoky as you kind of head to the north of that as well. And then looking this is a camera to the south and east of Red Bluff, and again kind of looking over, and as I mentioned, it's mainly over into the foothills east of the valley, but you don't have to go too far into the foothills before you start seeing that fire having that impact. So I just wanted to show you that. Let's take a look at this, and this is one of those things where I woke up this morning, and one of the first things I did is I wanted to see how the park fire, if anything, had happened. A couple of things I want to take note here. Number one, take a look, of course, where you can see where the park fire is. And that is right here. You can clearly see that bright orange that just spread overnight. And you can clearly see that growth as it moved north and northwestward. Once again, just following the line of that foothills and close to the valley here as we went into the overnight hours. But another thing that I don't like seeing here is if you look off to the north and west of that, right here, you can see where I've got the mouse, and I'm going to make it nice and big right there. Then another one up to the north and east of that right here. You've got the two main fires there that I just kind of pointed out, and we saw some recent activity coming in from those fires as well. So this is a sign and an indication of just how much drier it is out there. And one of the things I've been talking about over the last few days are the winds, and how the winds are going to be picking up more than normal in the afternoon hours. And that's essentially what happened. As those winds picked up, it really helped to kind of fan those flames, and things began to take off, especially with the park fire. But once again, we're seeing more recent activity here in areas that haven't really seen a lot of activity when it comes to fires, and especially the Shelley fire, where we haven't seen much recent activity there as well. So these are just dire conditions that we're looking at out there, and just how very dry it is. We're going to take a look at some of the evacuation orders and warnings. Now, one of the things I want to point out, and we're going to do this here real quickly here, is I want you to, since you know, a lot of the information, when you're looking at these recordings, some of it may not be fresh. So the best way to get the freshest information is to go to weathernorcal.com. And then what you do is you click down or scroll down, and you can see that big image there. It says fire danger. When you click on that, what it will do is it'll take you to the watch duty map at the very top. This can give you all of the latest on the fires that you may be looking for. So you can clearly see where the fires are. You can get interactive on there, click on the fires, and know what the acreage is. But again, I want to go into what we're looking at here when we're talking about the evacuation orders and warnings. Now, of course, you can go to let's see where it is. It's down here, where it says Zone Haven. Of course, now it's the Genesis Protect. Now, unfortunately, some of the counties don't update on Genesis Protect. So what you've got to do is find out where yours are. So when you click on this one, you can click on the source. What you'll see here is you click on it, it'll take you to that website. Then you can zoom in on your particular area. Okay, when you zoom in your area, what's going to happen is, oh boy, I didn't want that to happen. Well, here's the thing: is it is a little touch and go. If you don't see it on the Genesis Protect, go to the very bottom of the page. So, for example, for Butte County, click on the Butte County services here, the emergency management. Then on the left side here, you'll see a community evacuation maps. Click on that. And then you can go right up here at the top. It says evacuation zone map. Okay, you click on that, it'll ask you to proceed, and it will load up a map with all of the evacuation orders and warnings. Now again, I could go into all of the evacuation warnings and orders. That would take forever. This is why the internet and the day and age where you don't have to necessarily go to a news source to find out exactly what's going on and where you need to be. It's very easy to get this all online, and so that is pretty much what I like to just communicate with that when it comes to the orders and warnings, is that your best bet is going to be to download the Genesis Protect app. You can get watches, and you can get all of the evacuation warnings and orders for your area. You can also set up notifications so you'll know immediately when those orders and warnings are issued. And that is going to be my best recommendation to you when it comes to that. Again, I could go over it. We could spend over an hour doing that, and maybe eventually I'll go over that as we start going more into the fire perimeter. But again, the good news is, and again, I hate to say it, but is that the majority of the fire is east of the valley. There are most likely homes and different structures that have been impacted by this fire, but the higher populations are to the west of the fire. So obviously that is where the firefighters are going to be focusing a lot of their attention, is to make sure that they can protect those communities. So again, there's just kind of another look at that fire perimeter, and I will of course try to keep you updated here with this fire. And Coffee with Kruger starts at 7 o'clock this morning. That's where you can also get some of that latest data. All right, that's pretty much it with the fires, folks. Let's go ahead and take a look at moving forward, what the conditions are like for those fires. So what we're seeing here now is the smoke forecast. Now, obviously, a lot of smoke is going to be generated from the park fire. So you'll see, especially to the east, north and east of Chico is where we're seeing most of that smoke. However, tonight, some of that may drift northward into Red Bluff and even the Redding area, not to mention Bernie, and even parts of southeastern Siskiyou County and also Lassen County. That will start to dissipate as we go into tomorrow morning, and we could see maybe another repeat of that pattern as it kind of shifts and kind of moves over parts of the valley as well. So obviously this is going to change with the conditions and the winds and how active the fires are, but there are going to be some of you that will be impacted by the amount of smoke, and the air quality is going to drop as a result. Now, we have a red flag warning for today, and the reason being is for dry and windy conditions. Now, this is for Modoc County, eastern Lassen County, but again, keep in mind the conditions are very dangerous for many parts of Northern California. And again, this is something I mentioned earlier and have been talking about the last few days. We're seeing that typical pattern. In the morning, the winds die down, and in the afternoon and evening, the winds pick up, and more on the breezy side. But now what I've seen here and what we're seeing are stronger winds than normal in the afternoon and evening hours, and that is elevating that fire danger here really for the next couple of days, unfortunately. You can see the humidity levels. They are recovering in the overnight hours, which is good to see. However, in the afternoon, you can see just how dry it is. Look at Chico, 10% relative humidity. That's not too far from where the fire is. That's about what the humidity is as well for the fire. We take you into your Friday, and we see the humidity recovery is better overnight, but once again, still very dry conditions even as we go into Friday afternoon. So one of the things that you need to take into account when you're looking at the fire weather risk is it takes into account the temperature, the humidity, and on top of that, of course, the winds. When you take one factor out of those three elements I just mentioned, it does reduce that fire weather risk. And that main factor that's being taken from this is the heat. Yes, it's still going to be hot, just not as hot as it has been. So as a result, the fire danger won't be as high, but still high nonetheless because of the winds and because of the very dry conditions. And there's that fire potential. See the winds, the areas in orange is where we're expecting to see some of the strongest winds here. As I mentioned, that will extend on into your Friday as well, but we should see conditions improve as we go into the second half of the weekend. Now, one of the factors that we're concerned about when we think about new fires starting are lightning strikes. We saw a lot of lightning strikes in Modoc County and Lassen County yesterday, but the good news is that monsoon moisture, you can see it pushing eastward. And I don't anticipate any more thunderstorms today for the higher elevations, and really even going into the weekend and through next week as well. So that main issue, that main problem, forgive me, there's a big highway here and they do their Jake brakes. So, but anyway, you can see here, that's what we're looking at here. Not much in the way of, in fact, no thunderstorms are in the forecast here for the higher elevations. So that's one thing we can kind of just put away and tuck it away, and knowing that at least no new fires will be started by lightning strikes. So it's up to us that we make sure that we do everything we can to protect ourselves, our communities, and not start any new fires. Now, it looks like it is going to be a bit on the foggy side off and on here for the coast, but no big surprises there. Now, we switch gears, we talk about the heat. That area of high pressure is shifting eastward. Our temperatures are dropping as a result, but that's the case through the weekend. As we go through next week, what we're going to start to see happen is that ridge of high pressure, you see how it's still much cooler even into Monday of next week. But as we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday of next week, that ridge of high pressure will expand, it'll get stronger, and as a result, we will slowly see our temperatures warm back up. Now, through most, if not all of next week, it's not going to be as hot as it was this week, but by that next weekend, we could be looking at the potential of more close to 110 degree temperatures. There you can see, again, we're dropping down to the low to mid 90s, below normal, at least through Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday of next week, and then those triple digits return by the middle to latter part of next week. And as I mentioned, as we go into that next weekend, we will be most likely flirting with that 110 degree mark again, unfortunately. But at least it won't be as hot this weekend and even going through next week. All right, we'll take a look at your wave heights, and it looks like as we go into your Thursday today, not so bad. They are actually increasing, though, those wave heights today and even tomorrow. And as a result, there actually is a small correct advisory, but that won't take effect until this afternoon. So again, the wave heights aren't that bad now, but they will be increasing and getting higher as we go into this afternoon and tomorrow. Here is your neighborhood forecast for Trinity County. As you can see, really across the board, minus the coast. The coast will keep those temperatures in the low to mid 60s for the next 7 days, but everywhere else, we'll see the drop in the temperatures as we approach the weekend and go through the weekend, and then we'll see another gradual increase in our temperatures as we take you through next week. Your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast, mid 80s for the weekend into early next week, back in the upper 80s to around 90 by the time you get into Wednesday of next week. Still a bit hazy, still a bit smoky in some areas here, and kind of keep that in mind. Even if you're looking at sunny skies here on the map here, it will depend on, especially as you get closer to the park fire, that will depend on just how much smoke is generated from that fire. We take you to the Valley neighborhood forecast brought to you by NorCal Tractor. Your temperatures there are going to be in the upper 90s and some lower 100s. So again, we are seeing those temperatures begin to slowly drop. 103 for Redding as well as Red Bluff, 104 in Palisadro. Let's take a look at that 7-day outlook for Redding. Temperatures are dropping down in the low to mid 90s for Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But again, you'll notice, especially after Monday, those temperatures are going to start to slowly increase as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. Well, that is your morning update. Again, keep in mind at 7 a.m. live on Coffee with Kruger, we'll go into more detail on the fires. We can get more interactive. If you have questions you want to ask, be sure to tune in. Watch on Facebook. You can also watch on YouTube. You can watch on Amazon Fire Stick and Roku. And you can also watch from the free Weather NorCal app and click on that live segment, and that'll take you to the live programming there that will have kind of covering the fire, going into more detail on a lot of things here as we go live there. But as we go through the afternoon, there will be a little less coverage when it comes to the fires here for the noon hour and the evening hours, but it's mainly those morning hours that we see that coverage here. So once again, thank you for watching, and we will see you at noon for the latest update, and of course, live on Coffee with Kruger at 7 a.m.
At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too. Because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.